Well, I mean, I have a son, 16, so he's about the age of
Stephanie,
7.
yeah.
He's just about to
Mhm.
do his baccalaureate, and I must say that when he gets together with his American friends or goes to America, they seem to have no meeting point. That the European education has provided a much richer cultural, linguistic, and so on background than American. Do you find that
Perhaps
true?
intellectually they're more advanced, but they're less self-reliant. I think American kids are um, taught to be more self-reliant and more on their own earlier, and given perhaps a little more responsibility. Of course, I rather deplore the lack of discipline everywhere today. We sort of tend to think that knowledge is a substitute for discipline, and it never will be. Our children were brought up with a certain amount of discipline and found it quite natural. I think our son, when he went to college in the States, had suffered kind of a cultural shock because he wasn't prepared for the sort of imposed liberties that one finds on an American campus. But he has been to America very often. He spent many summers there, and of course they have cousins the same age, and they've visited back and forth. So, you know, they have contacts with America and feel very much at ease there.
Did you and Prince Rainier kind of divide up the responsibilities and bring? Did you have any definite plan in dividing the responsibilities and bring up the children?
Well, we discuss things all the time, and I think it, most of the discipline falls to the mother, but the threat of a father's no carries a lot of weight. And then I think when children are in their teenage years, the presence of father is very important and very necessary.
Was your father a disciplinarian?
Not too much. I'm afraid my mother
Your
had that
mother
job.
had the job,
It has fallen to me quite a bit as well.
and so you've inherited that job from your
Yes.
mother. One of the basic differences between when you grew up and your children growing up today is the impact of television on young people's lives. I mean, you barely had any television in your life. Is that true?
Well, of course, television has invaded the household, hasn't it? I mean, it seems to have replaced everything in our lives today. But of course, when I was growing up, we did have a bit of television because my father was very friendly with some had friends at Philco, and they were just making their first experiments, and they would put place sets in various families here and there, and they had programs 3 times a week, I remember, and they would send us an announcement of the programs for the next week, and we would have to check out what the reception, how the reception was, the quality of the program, this, which my brother, sisters, and I did very religiously. We thought that was a great responsibility and great fun. So we were aware of television quite early. And then, of course, I worked in television as an actress. Worked in live television in the early 50s. And that was quite a challenge and very exciting. It was sort of the pioneer days of television, and it really was wonderful to be part of it.
And how's television different now? I mean, you said it invaded the home.
Well, when you have there's a film to see or a book to read, it's a matter of choice. You choose to go to see that film, you buy that book. The television programming is just pushed into your house, and there it is. And I know the people in charge, well, it's up to the families to choose what their children should see. I have tried, when the children were in school, saying, well, you don't watch television as long as you have homework, and during the week we won't watch television. Well, then, of course, father comes home and he turns on the set, and the children are there, what are you going to do? And there's no way of keeping children from watching television. And I found it very, very difficult. I tried to use it as a means of punishment. If marks are bad, no television. But of course, it's a wonderful means of education, but it also has its bad points. It can be very destructive. And I know a teacher here in Monaco who has said to me, oh, I dread Monday recreation because these kids are acting out everything they've seen on television. And it's pretty rough and violent. So You know, it is one of the problems of our time, but I always think that because something is possible doesn't mean it's always desirable.
Did
And
you have...
we're going through that, excuse me, this
No.
sort of experience now with television. Because it's possible, it should be on all the time and everyone should be watching everything. And it's become a babysitter. So for children, it can be very dangerous. And then children become brain-soaked by it and numbed. And I've read some statistics not too long ago saying that an American child on reaching the age 18 has seen 18,000 murders and 350,000 commercials. Now that's kind of scary, isn't it? But on the other hand, television has been a great companion to people alone, to people in hospitals, people in remote areas. It's been wonderful. But
do you have any precise examples of influences or bad influences that may have had on your own children at some point? Something that happened?
Yes, I remember Caroline watching television as a child and being quite upset and quite hysterical over seeing something, and it was all I could do to try to tell her that it was make-believe. But television goes from newsreels or actualities into fiction, into movies. How does a small child know the difference? How do they know what's really happening and what isn't happening?
Maybe that's because real life is like that today. As we look around the world, it's hard to tell the difference between reality and fiction. Don't you think that is? I mean, it's tougher and tougher, for example, for novelists to write novels that have some new factor in them, because what's going on in the news often it overpowers them.
Well, that's true. Definitely.
Do you think, one of the problems obviously is to what extent does the family have a responsibility, the parents have a responsibility to monitor what their children watch on television?
Well, I think as far as possible they certainly should, and it's a parent's duty to do that, but there are more and more mothers who are working, and there are families who have more than one television set. So it's very difficult, and if parents are out, how do you know what your child's watching? You can't tell. And they're different, particularly in America, they're different time zones. What might be on late in the East is on early enough in the West for children to see. They haven't gone to bed yet. I know the movies that I've forbidden my children to see in a theater, but then they're shown on television. You know, so